Hi everyone, I am Beril. I am a member of 21st September World Peace Day Small Working Group. Today we are with Sami Ketuda. Sami, could you please introduce yourself?
As you already said, my name is Sami Ketuda. I'm 20 years old. I study in Istanbul in Yeditepe University. At the same time, I'm the local exchange director. I'm the son of a Syrian businessman and a Turkish English teacher. I lived in Syria until I was 10 years old, which made me see firsthand everything that happened there. Afterwards, I had to immigrate to Egypt, where I spent 2 years, also seeing everything that happened in Egypt firsthand. Afterwards, my family and me, we decided to find a peaceful, safe place to settle. That's why we came to Turkey in 2016, and I've been living in Turkey ever since.
Okay. How old were you when the war started?
So the war officially started in 2011, but the fact is that it wasn't a war since the beginning. The beginning of it, like wars are always clear. There's always two sides. This one, it was a revolution which turned into a civil war. It started when I was 9 years old. So I was old enough to understand that something was wrong, but not old enough to understand what went wrong and with who.
I mean, you were 10 years old, so.
Yeah.
How did you feel at that moment? Do you have any siblings? How old are they?
I have two brothers. One is 2 years older than me. He is 22 years old now. The other is 8 years younger than me. He is 12 years old now.
Okay. So how did you first learn about the war?
So my father is a businessman. He's a really, really workaholic, busy person. He spends most of his time working. He wakes up very early in the morning and he comes back late at night. So when it first started in 2011, I remember waking up to go to school one day and I was surprised to see him at home. He's not at work. And I was surprised to see him glued to the TV screen. So instead of going to work, he spent the morning just looking at the news, not believing what he's saying. Then I went to school, I came back, and I found my father in the same exact position. He stayed watching the TV, he didn't go to work. I went to school, I came back, and he was still watching the TV. At that moment, I was like, what's going on? And he's like, we don't know yet, son, but something's happening.
Yes, so
At
you
that
were going
moment,
to school at that time too.
yes, I was going to school because, like I said, it wasn't a war. It was a revolution which turned into a civil war. So not all places were affected at the same time.
Yeah.
So shortly after that time, when I was going to sleep, I started hearing explosions, bomb sounds. So I was going to sleep, and I used to hear two sounds. One is the sound of the cannonball going out of the gun, and the other one is the explosion when this cannonball hits. And a weird part of me realized that the cannon is close to us, so they're not firing at us. The balls are going further away. But when I was going to sleep, when I was 10 years old, 9 years old, I used to count cannonballs and explosions, not sheep.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did you feel at that moment when you first learned about the war that was happening?
It's really difficult to explain because you don't know exactly how you feel. It's just an overload of information. You don't understand what's happening. One day you're going to school, the other day you can't go to school, and you're 10 years old. Like, your parents can't really explain what's happening in political terms. How can you understand what's happening? One day you're going to school, seeing your friends. The other day you go to school and half of your friends aren't there. The third day your parents tell you to pack up, and then you have no idea where you're going. And just like that, without saying goodbye to most people you love, people you spent your childhood with, you just say goodbye, and you don't even get the chance to say goodbye. You just leave and you never see them again.
Did your family give you a statement about the war? If so, how did they explain the war?
So they tried explaining what was happening as such. They said there was injustice that was happening for many years. They said that some people weren't able to live because they were hungry, they didn't have their political freedom. And that's why, after so many years, because of increasing hunger and poverty, they said that those people wanted to get their freedom. That's why they started protesting. And when they started protesting, the government, because the government didn't want to give in to their terms, the government started bombing them and killing them.
Mhm.
And that's why we had to leave.
Have you lost any of your family members in battle?
I am really lucky to have not lost any family.
Did you go to a charity to get help?
Thankfully, we didn't need to, but we were really close to. Like multiple times, my father's a businessman, as like I already said. He was really lucky to have taken good decisions regarding his business before and during the start of the war, so that we could leave the country and set up a new life elsewhere without needing charity.
How did you feel when you learned that you were coming to Turkey?
So when I was going to Turkey, I was coming to Turkey from Egypt, and Egypt was an Arabic-speaking country. Syria is also an Arabic-speaking country. So I was more comfortable going from Syria to Egypt than going from Egypt to Turkey because of the language. At the same time, I knew that Turkey was a bigger country and that it had much more potential. So I told myself that I need to learn Turkish and to integrate into the community. To live a good life in Turkey, I need to become part of the Turkish community. So when I was coming to Turkey, I expected the Turks to give me a warm welcome, and most of them did. But sadly, others didn't. I had to face racism for many years until I finally learned Turkish. Even though now I speak Turkish very fluently, some people I still face racism from some people. So it was heartbreaking for me, expecting a warm welcome, expecting a warm society that has close values to mine, to face racism from said society.
How did it feel about leaving the place where you were born and raised?
So, like I said, it all develops really quickly. You don't have time to think about it when it happens. But it feels like there's an empty part of your childhood that you can't fill. So most people, they're born, they live, they grow in the same regions, they see the same people, they have the same family members. I haven't seen my grandma since 2011. So you lose a big part of what makes you you, which is your community. So I had to live in 3 different communities before I was even 13, 14 years old. So this, I can't explain it. Uh, like the only word that I think about right now is the word emptiness. Like there's an empty part that you can't fill. I wasn't raised in the neighborhoods my parents always explained to me. They always talked to me about. I didn't see any of the big landmarks as an adult in my country. And all my childhood friends, I can't even see them. I haven't been seeing them for 11, 12 years. So it's like an empty part of your childhood.
I mean, you talked a bit, but how were you greeted when you first came to Turkey?
No, sorry, I talked too much. It's like I said, I expected a warm welcome, and I had a warm welcome. A lot of people helped me. I'm really thankful for them. If they didn't help me, I would have had a much, much tougher time. But also, I faced racism from a good part of society in Turkey. So sadly, some of my friends, like I'm lucky to have suffered a small amount of racism. One of my friends, for example, was talking on his phone, speaking in Arabic, and he was followed by a gang and beaten up just
Oh,
because he was speaking Arabic. Uh, Another one couldn't find a house to stay in because the landowners they didn't want to rent any foreigners their houses. So I always feel like I'm lucky. I'm always meeting good people, but even though I'm really lucky, I also face racism. And if you look at the facts and the amount of beatings, the amount of racism that's happening, it's worrying.
Where did you stay at first at Turkey?
So when I first came to Turkey, I went to Gaziantep, which is a city in the south of Turkey, on the Syrian border. Yeah. Would you like me to explain
Where is
the house
Turkey?
you're staying in?
Where are you staying now?
Right now, I'm also staying in Gaziantep, but I'm studying in Istanbul.
What job did your parents do when they were in Syria?
So my father has a dental degree. He worked as a dentist for a few years, but he then opened a business, a factory. My mom is an English teacher. So in Syria, they both worked as a businessman and as an English teacher. And when we came to Turkey, they both continued their jobs. My mom still works as an English teacher, although she's retiring soon. My dad is a businessman.
Okay. So they work the same in Turkey too.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the future? Do you want to return to your homeland one day?
So this question is really difficult to answer because the homeland you're asking me about, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So when you have a country that's fragmented and has, like, the country I was born in is now almost divided into 4 different regions. So I always think about, what if I go back? What if I, as a doctor, can give something back to my hometown and stuff? But it's really hard to say for sure because the political situation is always changing. I can't go to many places in my country because of my religion and because of my political thoughts. If that changes, I hope I will be able to go back one day. But for now, I call Turkey my home.
Is there anything you want to add?
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate your effort.
And thank you for your time with us. Then you will